Hi everyone, welcome back to Architecture Photography Tutorials. Once again, I am Eric Lucero, and today we are going to work on an upper bedroom. There's a lot of us that have to deal with second story places, sometimes maybe a condo or a high rise where you can't get lights outside of the window. And this is just a good method for how I go about shooting like a small room where I can't get lights out the window and I still need to make it look dramatic without having just a typical ceiling pop. It just kind of fills the whole room. So here's the shot we've got here. As you can see, I'm using a small 2-foot gridded softbox. This is from Profoto and it's just on a B10X. The grid helps just kind of narrow the light down. As you can see, it just provides a nice kind of focused light rather than just filling the whole room here. So again, I pretty much do the same setup for all my shots. So as you've seen before, I've got my strobes all here in one layered folder, and then the ambients we'll work on afterwards, we'll get to those, are in their own layered folder. So what I'm going to do is just start with the strobes here. And this is our base layer. It looks pretty good. I took a brighter exposure if I wanted to add anything, just to add a little punch here. So I think just because we want this bed to be the main focal point, I'm going to just add a little bit of this layer in here and kind of paint that in, just so our eye kind of goes to this without it getting blown out too much. But I think that's pretty good just to keep our focus there. There's a darker layer in case I just need to darken anything down. On this particular shot, I'm not seeing anything crazy where sometimes this throw or something might go a little too bright, or the rug, you might want to dim it down. So that's why I always do the darker exposure as well. And then we move on to me moving to the other side, and I'm just going to paint out. So this is just going to be a normal layer rather than a lighten. And I'm just going to go 100% on this layer, and I'm just going to paint all of that out. And we're going to add just a little light there. And as you can see, it'll bring in this shadow from this table if I paint too much. So now I've kind of got conflicting shadows here. So you kind of got to make up your mind if you want the shadow from how you had it the first time or where you're lighting from the second time. I try to always keep in mind that naturally my light would be coming from this window, and that looks kind of like a realistic place for that light to be coming from. So I'm just going to paint out a little of this shadow we had from the other side and let that table shadow do its own thing. And you'll see once we get into the ambience that we'll lose a little bit of that too. So actually I think what I'm going to do, just to kind of work with those ambients, is I'm going to take out a little of this and just make it not a very strong shadow. Since we already had that information below, you can see it kind of dimming that out of here. I'm just going to get rid of it for the most part. Maybe we'll keep a little bit of that. No, I don't even want that leg shadow in there. So I'll just get rid of those leg shadows with the ambient layers. Here's just another brighter exposure of that. So again, I'm just gonna brighten up this record player since that's where I want my focal point to be. Maybe a little bit of this artwork, and go down to a 30% opacity. Maybe brighten up this curtain and this wall just a little bit. I'm actually gonna go back to that brighter layer we had here and do the same thing, just brighten up this curtain just a touch. Go to the next one, it's darker, we don't need that. This was just to give that curtain a little bit of that kind of feel that the light's coming from the window. So I'm just going to paint in this layer, and as you can see, I had the light pointed at that curtain directly just to kind of create that light. So I'm just going to paint this in here. It's going to help just kind of sell that illusion that that light's coming from the window. I'm doing the same thing from this side, just kind of giving that illusion. And all of this is just to kind of, again, give that realistic feel that we didn't create this light, that it's actually coming from this light source. So one more from up here onto this table, and maybe giving us some more texture. It gets rid of the shadow down here on the bed, so I'm actually going to use this. as just a normal layer. I'm going to paint out a little bit of that reflection. I'm just going to paint out some of this. And for the most part, that's looking pretty good. I always take a ceiling exposure here just to kind of fill in. As you can see, it was a little dark up there. So I'll paint that in as a light layer. And I'll just kind of give this a little bit of separation here. And you'll see why once we get the windows going. Because I always like to add that natural light to the ceilings. Because that's really where things start to feel real and not too strobe. So there's a quick rundown of how we did our strobe layers. Again, I'm going to merge these and create them into a color layer. And I'm just going to put that above my windows. And I go to my darkest layer here, and I always change that to a screen layer. Again, you can kind of see the glow it does around the window. And if you just want to see, that's about the brightness of that layer. It's pretty dark. And again, I just use that as a screen, and it just kind of gives me a little bit of glow here. You'll see how I added a little bit of realism there and glow around the window. So now if I go up in my exposures, these are just bracketed full stop exposures from daylight. So as you can see here, as I go up, it maybe dims down that sky a little bit so we don't get as much of that cut and pasty feel. So I just kind of go through here with like a 30-40% brush and just kind of paint that in so it's not as in your face blue. I don't need these houses as bright as they are. So I'm going to go here again, and now you'll see we start to get some window wash here from the natural light where we didn't have any before. And this is an important part of making any of your shots look real, is having the inside of these window frames painted in like the natural light's coming in. And I think that's where a lot of real estate shots kind of suffer, is they're strobed so much from the front and filled from the front that they forget to add in this element, and then it just looks like a strobed shot. So again, I have these ambients. Now you can start to see the light coming through these curtains a little bit. Again, an important element of bringing the realism into these shots. And I'm here at 80%, just painting these in. Going over it a couple times. Again, adding a little bit more of this window fill in here. Get some on this side. And I'm using a pressure sensitive pen on a Wacom tablet, so I can push this as soft or as hard as I want to, so I'm not getting any spillover onto my windows as if I was using a regular mouse. You can kind of see, if I go to the mask here, how it actually leaves out a lot of that spill. If I hold shift and option, I can actually see where I'm painting this in here, and see I got a little spill there. That's the nice part about using a Wacom tablet, is you really have the ability to just refine your mask drawing with the pressure sensitivity you put on the pen. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And now we're starting to get some of this daylight influence on the rest of the shot. You can see it here on the carpets, washing the wall. Again, all this is just important to bring in the realism. So I'm going to go down to like a 40% brush now. I'm going to paint in some more of these curtains. This is starting to look good. Get this upper wall here. Get some more curtain wash here. And I'm going to paint in some of this reflection. See how now it adds to that bench, that sense of realism there. Add some of this. And we're not seeing much of it on this layer coming into the room yet. We can see how it's getting a little bit onto this wall. But this is all good because this is all naturally what's occurring in this room. So again, go up in our bracket. Now it's adding a little bit of reflection here in these pictures. I like how it's kind of bringing out that frame. You can kind of see how this frame gets lost otherwise, but with the natural light, it's kind of pulling that in there. That was the one before, so here we go. So I'm just going to add some more of this in here. Again, about a 30% opacity. Get that going. Get some more of this carpet wash going. Now we're starting to see it on the bottom of this window frame, which is good. And if you want to get crazy with it, I mean, you can get this middle bar as well, just to really give it that extra step. But I'm just going to add some more of this in here. Get this upper part. Now we'll start to see it in the ceiling a little bit. But again, just keep those curtains coming there. Now I think this is starting to look pretty good. Once we get up to here, things start to get a little washed out from the daytime. So I do like to add a little of this though. I just don't like to add much. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to put my brush at 1%. And I'm just going to kind of paint in the areas I know that are a little dark. And maybe just to add a little bit of this to these other areas. And I think that looks pretty good. So once I'm done with that, I want to just go back to my strobe layer, kind of play with the opacity, and just see anywhere, again, I've said this in the other videos, from 80, 90%. I mean, if you really want it to look like a daytime shot, obviously I'm pulling it down way too much here at 30. But if you do have shots that you want mostly to be daytime looking, you can pull that as low as you want to eliminate some of your strobes. But I think this one on 85, maybe 90, is looking pretty good. I'm going to go back through here. And this is kind of why I like non-destructive editing, is I can go back through here and see where I painted in. Okay, I brightened that up a little bit. Maybe I don't need as much as the wall in there as I originally thought I wanted, so I can paint that out. I got my carpet here, which looks pretty good. This is me painting out. See how some of it bled into here. So when I go back through and I turn on and off these layers, I can see these things. That's why I don't like necessarily flattening my images. Oops, that was the wrong layer. Let's go back here. Because I like to go back after I think I have them dialed into where I like them, just to make those final little adjustments. Oh, I'm still on 10%, is why that's not working very well. So I'm going to go to 50 here. Just get rid of that. Okay, that looks good. Check that curtain. See, now I can see that this is going a little cool, and I don't necessarily like it on there because whatever the ambient was doing is doing the job that I needed it to, so I took that off. Same with this one. This I'm looking at now, and I actually like it without that layer on. I like this little bit of reflection, and I don't mind what the shadow is doing now that I have some of the ambient in there. So it actually looks a little bit more realistic that way. And the ceiling, I'm just going to get rid of that as well, because you can see here it kind of got a little gloomy under the wall, and the natural daylight filled that in pretty well. And really it was just there for kind of color anyway. So now that I have all those taken off, we've got a pretty clean shot here that was done. I mean, the edit was very quick. The shot was maybe 5-10 minutes, just a couple brackets of strobes on each side, and you know, a quick bracket on the daytime exposure, and you got the whole thing done. I'll go back through and clean out that light and go check for any other little things I need for cleanup. I might clean out this crease here, but other than that, that's a quick and easy way to get a small bedroom done with a very natural, realistic look. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.